There's a Willie, there's a way. It happens every single day. You may be a rolling stone or a rocker on your own, but there's a Willie, there's a way.
Are you in New York?
I'm in New York City. I'm in Greenwich Village.
Ah, right.
Right in the heart of Greenwich Village, yeah.
Very cool. What's the vibe like in Greenwich Village these days?
Well, it's been really humid. You know, the whole summer has been just extraordinarily, like, almost no break.
Right.
And New York's known for that, but I don't remember it being this bad. I've been here a lot of years. During the lockdown pandemic, they let a lot of people out of institutions. And with some of the marches, like the Black Lives Matter and defund the police stuff, I think the police might have went, okay, you guys take care of yourself. So Washington Square Park for some weeks turned into this like a crack park, you know, like I never saw. I was talking with Steve Earle earlier about that.
Right.
Never saw it like that. So they shut off parts of the park, but it's sometimes it's like The Walking Dead. There's like zombies walking, you know. It's like, but it's fascinating. It's still New York. It's pretty alive. People are out and about. It's been a fascinating last 17 months or whatever, how long it's been, is an understatement.
It is strange. Well, here nobody's out and about. We thought we had kicked the whole thing, and we're living normal lives up until 2 days ago. They discovered one case of the new virus, and we completely locked down the entire country.
I don't know if you know it, but from my perspective and what I hear, there's so much admiration for the woman that's
Jacinda.
At the head of your government. I mean, it's people are just like, oh, we want her. She's just so one person and you shut down.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because up until 2 days ago, people were starting to whine and complain, you know, we want to go overseas. The tourist industry is terrible. We need to open everything up. But as soon as this happened, everybody seems to be of one mind. Yet we got to beat this thing. So that's pretty cool.
You've got a fairly civilized society there, I must say. No, but it's like the States. We all thought 2 months ago, 3 months ago, oh man, we're getting out of it. And now all of a sudden, because I've been touring, playing here and here and there, and it's like tours are getting shut down, gigs are getting canceled here and there. So we're not out of it. It's going back in. So you must clearly live in a more enlightened environment.
But it is very much the day the earth stood still here. It's like quiet out there, man.
No, it's literal. It's literal. When I came up with the idea for that song, you know, it was because of that.
Politicians were in the pockets. There were senators on the edge. There were Wall Street mooks shaking in their boots, standing on the window ledge. A cold north wind was blowing, giving everybody a chill. Nothing moved out on Main Street the day the earth stood still.
Oh my goodness, yeah, the title track. I love New York. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and
I grew up in Rochester.
That's right, you did. Whoa, wow. Hi, neighbor.
How's it going?
Whoa.
How about those chicken wings?
Hey.
But back to your song.
So it became, if you told me 2 years ago that New York City would be a ghost town, you know, I would have thought you were, you know, smoking stuff, talking through your hat.
Yeah.
And, but it became indeed, you know, March and then April and May were like, there's a lot of people in New York City, and you'd step out on the street and there'd be not no one, but close to it. And the people that were out, it was just eerie, like you were in a sci-fi film.
Right.
And you know, these huge buildings haunted, looking down upon the streets. I'd loved it. I thought it was fascinating. I still felt the energy in New York City, even though they're empty, because I love the history here. I still felt that. And one day at the end of the end of May last year, I was by my storage space, which is a block from the Holland Tunnel, you know, and on rush hour, it's, you know, 45 minutes, you go 3 blocks.
Sure.
And so one rush hour, like 6 o'clock, I came out of my storage space. I went to get something, and I got to the corner of Varick and Spring, and I looked uptown, not a car or person in sight for a long way. I looked downtown, nobody going in the tunnel, nobody down beyond that. It hit me like a ton of bricks the day the earth stood still, and that was the beginning of that song. Yeah.
Wow.
I knew when I wrote it that I mean, I always loved that old film.
Yeah.
But I write from instinct. I don't sit down to write. I just let the word, when ideas come to me, if I think they're any good, I'll pursue them. And I knew it was something, and the lyrics started coming to me, and I knocked it out, and I love the song. I mean, it's a rocker. When we were recording it, I felt in the middle of that take, I did 3 takes, and I'm in one room, the band's in another, all masked up. We did it in January. I'm in another room masked up. No, I wasn't masked. I was playing guitar and singing, and halfway through the take, I thought, whoa, there's a real energy to this take.
Yeah.
And I really, it was so much fun. I'll never forget that moment. And that's a live vocal. I didn't overdub anything.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now you mentioned Steve Earle. Is he a neighbor of yours?
Yeah, Steve lives right around the corner. I could go up on my roof and throw a baseball and hit his building. Yeah.
So so it wasn't difficult to get him to help out on the record.
Well, it was so nice of him, Marty. We see each other on the street all the time, and we're friends. And near the end of the project, I listened to the song Blood on Your Hands, and I thought, you know what? It just occurred to me that I could ask Steve to sing on it with me, a duet. Because his voice is gritty and street, and he's somebody that writes what he cares about. He doesn't pretend to be he's no poser, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I love his rough edges.
You can paint the town red, you can call the truth fake. Yeah, but there will come a time when the whip comes down, when the pauper is king and the king becomes a clown. Blood on your hands, blood on your hands. There's cracks in the walls of your best laid plans. Blood on your hands, blood on your feet. There's bodies piling up down on Duda Street.
And I just texted him. I said, hey, Steve, I'm making a record. There's a song I've got that I'd love you to sing on. And he just wrote back, I'm around.
Yeah.
And so I sent him the MP3. He wrote back, okay. Came in the studio. We had a great time. And he sang so well on it. It's an honor for me and a real thrill to have Steve singing on that one.
Yeah. Now this record here comes pretty much hot on the heels of your previous record. So,
I made 4 records in 5 years. Somebody told me 5 records in 5 years, because maybe the beginning at 1 year. But yeah, not by any plan or design. It's just that when the songs come to me, I'll write them. And if I feel a collection is gathering,
right,
I'll pursue it. I don't put any filler on my records. I in my mind anyway.
it's all killer.
Anyway, I felt I had a good last year's New York at Night, which we did not get to tour behind.
Right.
I love that record. I mean, I'm having more fun now. I'm more fun. Really enjoying so much the recording, the writing, the touring with the band. I'm enjoying it now. I'm an older cat,
Yep.
But I've never had more fun, and the band's passionate. We can do 2 hours, and we don't hold back. When I play a show, I play a show,
Cool.
And
Cool.
I'm having a ball.
So speaking of your career, I mean, what do you think of when you see this?
That was 41 years ago, the first
I
album,
know.
Yeah. I look at that, it makes me laugh. I don't listen to old records really. The ones I'm working on, I know every note on every record.
Right.
And I heard that not too long ago, and because we did over the last year, I was doing monthly online shows,
right,
ticketed events to help pay the bills.
Sure. Yep.
And it went really, really well. People were so great. The fans were just great. And one of the shows we did in December was my first album, like 40th anniversary show, because we didn't get to do it last year.
Right.
And it was so much fun to play it. I thought, whoa, there's some good songs on this. And the band just killed it. So what do I think of that? It makes me laugh. And I go, you silly fool, get that cigarette out of your mouth.
Well, there is that. Those are different times.
Different times. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you went through a whole bunch of label stuff and big.
I was on Arista, I was playing on Bleecker Street at Kenny's Castaways.
Right.
And you play just one of the local great bar club, and you would do 6 days, two sets a night. And Robert Palmer of the New York Times was coming to interview, not interview, but review the headliner. And I was just opening the show. But when he called the club to check on the times, Don Hill, bless his rebel rock and roll heart, said, you want to come to see the opening act, you might want to. And he did. And he wrote this glowing review, got me signed to Arista Records.
Nice one.
Yeah.
He'd seen the future of rock and roll, and it was Willie Nile.
A funny little guy with a cigarette in his mouth. Yeah.
There you go. Now, jumping back to the present, we should talk about the Justice Bell.
Oh, the justice bell will not be stilled. Hear it ring, and for every dream that is fulfilled, hear it ring. Hear it in the voiceless ones as they rise up and sing. Oh, the justice bell will not be stilled. Hear it ring.
Because you wrote that for John Lewis, and maybe you can enlighten us as to.
Yeah, well, I met John Lewis a few years ago. A congressman friend of mine, a former congressman, Joe Crowley, who was a good friend. He was having a birthday party. Southside Johnny was the band playing, was at a club.
Yeah.
At the time, Joe was still in Congress, and they were expecting he would be the next Speaker of the House. So when he had his birthday party, a lot of people came up from DC, and he'd been working with John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, for years. At 20 years, they were good friends. And Nancy Pelosi flew up, and I met Nancy before, and Joe gave me a really nice introduction to John Lewis. He said, so a great American poet, blah, blah, blah. He said a lot of nice things.
Yeah.
I was blushing, but John, we had some really sweet moments together. Really a great guy. That's ridiculous. He's an American treasure.
Right.
This icon about, equality. In the phone call, let me turn it off.
That's right.
That was the baby Jesus calls me all the time. I said, call me later. Anyway, John Lewis came in the room. Carolyn Kennedy was there that night. I'd met her before, and through Joe Crowley. So I met him, and I shook his hand and got to tell him, in all sincerity, how much I thought of him and how I thanked him for all his work. I mean, guy put his life on the line, literally, for people have the right to vote. That alone, with what's happening now in the country, with all the these laws being passed, like basically trying to stop people from voting.
Right.
What's that about? This is supposed to be America, land of the free, whatever. And everybody knows things are really twisted these days. But that aside, he was so kind. You look into his eyes and you could see this guy, this weathered warrior with a kind heart, but a heart of steel. And then he spoke for 10 minutes. I got to stand like 5 feet from him and watching him speak, encouraging the audience to continue on, to keep the faith that it's worth the fight to, for justice, equality, and brotherhood and sisterhood on the planet. I mean, I'm okay with that. People getting along, I'm okay with that. People being kind and compassionate to each other, as long as there's a little rock and roll in the room, I'm okay with that.
There you go. So do you think, you've been around for a while, as have I, and you can kind of compare things, how they were in the 60s, and supposedly there was change happening there. Are things actually changing, do you think? Or is there hope?
They're always, there's a song on the album called Expect Change.
Expect change, 'cause it's coming. Expect change, 'cause it's coming. Turn to the left, turn to the right, everything gonna be alright. Move to the front, move to the rear, someone whispers in your ear. Expect change.
And when I wrote that, I'm a philosophy major from the University of Buffalo, and I took a lot of Zen Buddhism courses, and near the end of my last 2 years, the one constant is that there is no constant. Things just keep evolving and changing, and how is it compared now? The 60s were a fascinating time. The late 60s with the Vietnam War and all that tension, not fun.
Right.
To see people at such odds. I would say it's probably worse now, and that's because there's 24/7 news.
Right.
So it's all more. It's more all encompassing. It's more in your face. It's a drag. Like people can't do better. Bobby Kennedy used to say, "We're a good people. We're a compassionate people, and we can do better."
Right.
And I think so too. I'm a positive guy. I really try to spread positive, messages and songs of inspiration when I can. And the Justice Bell came out beyond my wildest dreams, and yeah, God bless John Lewis. Anyway,
Very
I'm a
cool.
positive guy, and I do it. I write these songs because they mean something to me.
Right.
I wouldn't do it if they didn't,
Yeah.
and yeah. Anyway, this
It's,
album.
it's interesting. I mean, from what I understand, are you 73? Is that how old you are?
I'm 70. Yeah. That's what a joke. Yeah, no, 73. 73, but I
mean,
like it.
a lot of folks your age, my age, are still just rocking out and doing it and, making the best music of their careers at these. I mean, the new Bruce Springsteen album is pretty awesome. And, just people seem to be just going until they drop.
Well, I'm sure that'll be the case in I'm sure I'll go till I drop, and it's one day. I'm sure it'll happen. But I still
Sadly,
feel
it's
good.
inevitable.
My dad's 103. My father's 103 years old. Just got off the phone with him to say hello.
Fantastic.
He's doing really good. He's still like able to have a good quality of life, and so I hope I get some of those genes. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm grateful to make the records I've made in the last 4 albums I've made in the last 4 or 5 years. I'm proud of them, and yeah, I'm having a ball, like writing my socks off. I don't know if I have to keep putting socks on because I keep blowing them off my feet with the songs I'm writing.
Right. Now, you mentioned University of Buffalo. If I'm not mistaken, the only time I was ever there is I saw a Patti Smith concert there in like the late 70s. And she had a fever. She was sick and it took over her performance. And she did this kind of feverish thing on stage, which made me think, then bring it back to you. What kind of stage experiences do you have? What is it like for you when you're making these records?
First of all, it's funny you mentioned that. I was leaving. I went rehearsing with the band, and on the way there, the car we were in, Patty was walking down the street right out the door. I saw Patty walking down the street. I think she was with her son, and it's a fertile area. Steve Earle's over here. Patty's down a block away. Little Steven's up block this way. My stage experience, I've been pretty lucky health-wise. I remember one show I was doing at the Paramount Theater in Asbury Park, and I was having a merry old time. This is a few years ago, and I was trying to see how high I could jump.
That's always going to end well.
I tore a bunch of muscles in my right calf, and I was on crutches for 2 weeks.
Oh man!
But I've been pretty lucky by and by. If I go on stage, if I have a fever, it's every single time. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
By the time the show's over, it's long gone. So I played being sick. I don't know that I missed a show.
Yeah.
I remember I fell once and had a concussion. How many years ago? Maybe 12 years ago. I had a concussion, and I had a show in Boston the next night. I told my manager at the time. I said, I'm not feeling great. I went to the hospital in an ambulance. And I'd stopped breathing, and my son gave me the whatever he got me to breathe in it. And they did some tests and they sent me home, and I was really hurting. And I said, I don't think I feel so good. He goes, you'll be fine. I'll pick you up in 2 hours.
Man.
And so when he came by in the car to pick me up, because he figured, you'll be all right. And he saw me walking out like a 200-year-old man going,
Right.
So we drove to Boston. I did the show. And I remember being on stage, I almost fell over a couple of times, but you do your best. And I've been pretty fortunate in that regard. Knock on wood.
Yeah. I got to ask you one more question. Who is that in the portrait behind you? It looks like an Indian holding a gun.
Yeah, that's Geronimo.
It is Geronimo. Okay.
That's Geronimo. Yeah.
I bought that drawing my eye too the whole time.
I bought that just the other day. There's a great store here called Western Spirit, and it's going out of business. I mean, it's shocking to see how many places are getting shut down.
Yeah.
And he says, I just can't do it anymore. And it's a great store with a lot of great, American Indian stuff.
Yeah.
from, you know, all kinds of stuff. And I saw that, and I bought a bunch of stuff the other day. I'm going to go back again tomorrow, I hope, to get a few more things. But yeah, that's Geronimo,
Right.
shining down on us. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there going to be another record next year, you think?
You know, my lead guitar player, Jimmy Bones, I'm blessed with a great band. You know,
Yeah.
Jimmy Bones, Johnny Paisano, and John Weber, just a great band. And I got a good team around me. I can't make these records. You know, I can't make something like this, including the photograph.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
That's a guy who does a living he's a street performance artist. He does a living statue thing.
Oh,
He's like
man.
4'10". He stands on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I mean, here he is against the Washington Square Arch. He looks like part of it.
Yep. It's like a Greek, you know, something in the Parthenon or something.
Yeah, it's very Parthenon-esque. And I got a great team around me to make these records. And yeah, I'm just deeply grateful for what I'm able to do. My lead guitar player said the other day, he says, "Hey, we haven't made a record in 3 months. Are you slowing down?"
Well, if you got a guitar player in your band who spells his name Jimi, it's got to be good, right?
It's got to be good. And he is good. I'll tell you that. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. This has been
Marty,
fantastic.
Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. You know, years ago, a lead guitar player I had was in the Drongos, Richard Kennedy,
Right.
from New Zealand, and a great guy. He's still alive. He's living in the UK. But yeah, the Drongos. That's my
The
one
Drongos,
connection.
yeah. I remember that.
I've never been. I'd love to come down there, hit New
I
Zealand.
think I got the
Australia.
record in the back somewhere. I'll have to go look now.
No kidding. Wow. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Marty, and I hope to see you someday. You know, I don't know if you. I don't know if you get to the States, but if I come there,
One way or another.
I'll find you. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
All righty. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Take good care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.